depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to Raising Excellence, the most important 90 minutes of your day. In this case, I think we're probably going to do like 80 today because of the little delay. But I'm Michael, the MC and opportunity ambassador for today's show. And today's show is
Diving
diving deep
deep
into
with the sense.
essential oils.
Yes.
More on essential oils and our kitchen alchemy. But with me today, we've got four other co hosts. So let me start to introduce them. Agnieszka, our psychosomatic illuminator.
Hi, everybody. I am sorry for the delay. Technology did not want to cooperate, but we are here now. A little frazzled, me frazzled. The rest of them are fine. So,
Willow, our trauma consultant.
Hi, everyone.
Dennis, our freedom facilitator.
Blessed love and greetings, everybody.
And Gabriel, our kind of almost complete host, co host that knows a lot of stuff.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
So who's starting off with the essential oils? Nishka, is it you that's going to tell us about
I
what
guess
we're
I
doing
could.
today? Okay.
We did have a bit of a pre-show meeting, and we talked about what we're going to talk about and how we're going to um, do this thing. It's really interesting, you guys, because I'm kind of flying blind because the app is not working, so I don't really know how many people are watching or whatever. But we're just doing it. So if you're watching, send us a text so we know you're watching because the window to the watching people is closed. That said, essential oils. So there are certain considerations for essential oils before we get into like what oils we use. And I brought my collection here. Look, I have a cool little box.
Nice.
It's got glass doors. Very cool. Got it. I got it from Carol. She was a guest before in here. So when she was moving to Costa Rica, I got her box or her essential oil cabinet. But before we get into like what essential oils we use, we have to really talk about individuality again, don't we, Gabriel?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of adverse reactions that people can expose themselves to if they're not acting accordingly. So some caution is always merited. And dipping your toe in the water before you just go whole hog on any treatment is always advised, just like anything else. And it's something that we need to see more in medicine, so we can demonstrate a good example through essential oils.
While I was having this technical difficulties rebooting my computer twice, they were having a great conversation about medicine. So, yeah, censored most of it, but hey.
I don't call that medicine. We weren't having a conversation about medicine.
Experimental medicine, perhaps?
Poison.
Oh, okay. Anyway, essential oils are not poison for the most part. Oh, unless you get the synthetic ones. I meant to mention. So apparently, some manufacturers, I don't have any here, but you can get some essential oils from China. I've read some reviews online about certain brands, and some of them are fake. They're not actually essential oils. They're not oils at all. They may be oil-based products, but they're fragrances, synthetic, and they do not have the abilities to heal you. They're not an extract of a plant. There's some kind of a abomination created in a factory, and unfortunately, we have to be very careful what oils we buy. So before you buy any essential oils, check out the brand, make sure that what they're saying is right, and make sure, like, even if it's brand that they're saying that pure essential oils, I mean, if that brand is located in China, unless you know somebody personally who's already using it, I would err on the side of caution. We have a lot of great brands in North America that distill essential oils for our use that we don't actually need to go. And the cheap ones from China, like, they're, first of all, they're not going to do anything to you, and second of all, it's not worth saving the few bucks. Essential oils can be expensive, but each bottle lasts for a really long time, so you have a lot of use out of one bottle, even though it's tiny. What are you thinking about, Willow? What's with that smirk?
I'm just thinking about how many times I've had to refill my pine needle oil. Because I go, like, I have certain ones that will go through really fast because the dropper on them drops out a lot of droplets at a time. And also just my preference. So
Yeah, so it's a thinner oil.
Could be. I also get the Now brand
Me
that
too.
you get that are these. I got these in Nebraska from a natural food store, but I was just looking at my other ones. I have like a Mainstays that's just from Walmart. And I only use those in my diffuser. I only use them for aromatherapy. I will not put them on my skin.
But that's more, but see, I don't know, because that's just smelling artificial fragrances through the air. So if that's your jam, I guess.
Well, it depends on what you're using it for. If you're using it like peppermint for headaches, like if you're using it for a headache, maybe it won't work. I don't know. My peppermint is through Walmart, and it does seem to work for my headaches, but I only put it in a diffuser. But if you're just using it like, I use my pine mostly for an emotional, like, at least when I first started, I thought it was an emotional attachment because I grew up in the deep South. I grew up with pine trees everywhere. I used to sicken my husband because I would have pines, Glade pine air fresheners. I'd spray them all over the house because I just loved the smell. I'd have so many candles burning that all smelled like pine. But I use that for like an emotional comfort, and it really does. Actually, mine is the 100% oil, or the essential oil, but I still use it for an emotional attachment. And so I think that if it's an emotional attachment, it might still be able to help because it's in the mind, versus a topical ointment or something. But yeah, I think my biggest thing is, even if they say aromatherapy only, do your research and pay attention. Pay attention to how you feel when you're using it, because we actually use the peppermint oil. I think we used it, that or the tea tree oil, in beard oil for my husband, and that goes on his skin, and he hasn't had any bad reactions to it. So I consider that relatively safe for us. But even if you get something that's like 100% oil and it makes you sick, don't use it. If it makes you break out, don't use it. If you put it in a diffuser and it starts bringing all these negative thoughts up that you can't handle and you feel overwhelmed, stop using it. Trust yourself.
Yeah. And again, the thoughts can come up because it's an emotional thought, so it's from like a memory or something, because it's actually like your body's reacting badly to it, because there are so many different reasons why your body may not like it. But even if, for example, my mother and I were related, obviously. She's my mother. She birthed me, but we have different sensitivities to essential oils. If she touches if lavender oil touches her skin, it leaves like a brown mark for like years. I don't know, forever. But I know that she used to put it on like a cotton swab and in between her boobs, and then she has like a little brown mark there from the lavender, because she used lavender one time. So she can't use lavender. I can. I can take straight lavender, pour it on my skin. It doesn't do anything. Well, it does. It relieves bruises. It helps healing. It uplifts my mood. It perhaps even relieves some of the sore muscles or things like that. But as far as reactions, those are the only ones I get. Dennis, how do you use essential oils?
Oh, well, we covered, was it last week, in the show last week, we covered some uses for cleaning. So we have been using them, adding them to some of the cleaners, the natural cleaners that we produce. I have them in the diffuser as well. I use them in those little lamps that you put a candlelight inside. I'm not sure how you call those in English. I use them topically, even for whether it's for skin conditions, you mentioned already, for headache, for calming down the children, for example, putting them to sleep sometimes, for bone breaks. There is, there's a bunch of uses. It's all, what else off the top of my head? I think those are basically, the uses. I actually work with, that's what I said, but I work with moringa oil. I mentioned that, some time ago. That has a lot of, for cuts, and tea tree as well, which is also good for disinfecting. It's an antibiotic as well. And so those would be some of the uses we have. And just as some of you said before, it's really important to choose them well and to have organic ones ideally, but at least like truly essential oils, so not some chemical reproductions of oils. And they have a you can we add them to the bath water as well, sometimes for the children when they take a bath. And then Colleen does a bunch of more stuff with it for her, I think for shampoo, for skincare products and stuff. Which
Does Colleen make her own shampoo?
Yeah, she has her own mixtures of, I think she mixes special stuff for her hair. That's as far as I can.
There's some stuff, she mixes it, she smears in her hair. I don't know what it is.
It takes hours, but yeah.
Well, she also has, she's black, right? So she's got that hair that requires extra care and stuff.
Yeah, big time. Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. What else were we going to talk about, Gabriel? There was something else that you mentioned earlier.
Well, there's a process for identifying and choosing applications, but I did want to touch on something that Willow said. The pine oil is definitely something that gets a lot of mileage for me, and I do find similar calming effects from using it. And as mentioned previously in the past shows, I use mine in laundry, so I'll do mixtures with that, and I get a lot of miles out of that. The scent is always with me. It's faint enough that it's not overpowering, and so it's relaxing. And Willow also mentioned beard oils, and I just came up with a mixture for that I've been really enjoying. And that one, for people that are looking to fill in, it stimulates hair growth. It also stimulates the hair itself, and it treats the skin. And for me, that's a mixture, roughly equal combination of what's called argan oil and ylang oil, spelled YLANG twice, and rosemary oil. And I work those together into a mixture in my palm, and I use that to apply as a beard and face oil. And I also mix that, after doing that, I have a solution of vitamin C crystals dissolved into water, and I use that after the oil regimen, and that helps cut down like any excess oiliness. And it also provides some acidity, which is a good way to clean your skin and make sure that you don't get a staph infection and that kind of thing for after you shave. So I get a lot of versatility out of that alone.
And the vitamin C would also help with tightness, with pore tightening, and it would help with wrinkles. So just like a mild acid like that does help with the skin elasticity and wrinkles. Not that I use acids anymore on my face.
So it works as a toner?
Basically.
Okay. Because that's what I use witch hazel for.
It's an acid. Well, I don't know. Is witch hazel an acid? I'm not sure.
It's an astringent. That's all I know.
Yeah, it's an astringent. It has some acidic properties, but it's still in an oil form. So it's sort of the oil overwhelms it, but it does cut down other oils and other fats and stuff built up on your skin. But one thing that we were talking about was the decision-making process in terms of choosing essential oils. So there are a lot of oils with a lot of overlaps across a lot of different applications. And there's a whole world of options out there. So you have a lot of choices, but the first thing that you want to do is decide what you will want to accomplish with that oil. So that's the first step in my process there. So determining what I want to accomplish and then using that to narrow down a list of essential oils that are going to be a good fit. After that, you want to test for sensitivity to any of these oils that you might be applying. And so as we discussed in the past show, you want to be diluting these, sometimes a great deal. As you know, I believe what was recommended last time around was a 10% essential oil to 90% carrier, for example, coconut oil.
I would do it even way more. Like I would do 1 in 20, 1 in 30 maybe.
Okay.
Like a drop to start with, if you have I make my beginner test mixtures in shot glasses, right? So like vodka shot glasses or whatever. So you put like a third of a shot glass of oil and then literally a drop or two of the essential oil, and you mix it up, and that's how you can test whether you're sensitive to it or not. It doesn't have to be a high concentration. It could be just a touch. A lot of people really react well to just a bare touch of the essential oil in the carrier oils.
Right. And so yeah, exactly. And so when you're doing that, you want to make sure that you're not exposing yourself to anything nasty. So take all precautions that you think are appropriate. I apparently have been lucky and I don't have to dilute it so much. But that said, everybody is different, and it's not me you want to listen to, it's your body. It's nobody else. You are your own machine, and you want to treat that properly so that it can return the love that you're bringing to it. And so you have your selection, you have your application, and you've narrowed down your selection, and then you've tested things that may cause reactions, may cause sensitivity, and then you blend it and apply it. And you make sure that you're getting those results that you're looking for. Different things work differently for different people. Some people don't respond at all to certain things that work wonders for others. So that's part of the exploration process. But it's really approachable this way. You can go through and you can test anything. You just find the one that you like, find the cleanest option, test it, and then try it out in the application that you want it for. And I think you'll find before you know it, you'll have a closet full of little bottles of essential oils because they are so useful. And I've found so much benefit that I have my own stash that's not actually with me. But I definitely have bags and bags of little essential oils that I found applications for all over the home and all over the body.
When you're looking for them, you might want to check out the Latin name as well, because lavender is not lavender necessarily. So sometimes it comes from different part of the same plant. And sometimes there's actually different, subcategories of the plant itself, which might have, different applications and different ways how they work, or different strengths as well. So I always make sure, I look for the actual botanical name of the plant on it. And some oils don't even give you that. So I prefer the ones that actually give you the full information of which part of the plant and which exact plant it comes from. And then I would, research. Just like you said, what I want to buy it for, and or what the application for that specific one actually are.
And that's a really important point. So, for example, when you go shopping and you go down the spice aisle, you're going to see a lot of bottles, and they'll all say cinnamon across the front. However, if you look deeper into the processes, you'll find that much of what is masquerading as cinnamon on supermarket shelves is actually what's called cassia bark. And some people use it as a blender, other people use it as an outright replacement. And the sensitivities that people have can vary when they're having things substituted without their knowledge. So that's a really important point, and it's even more important with essential oils. And that brings me to another point, which are there are some that you do want to be more careful with than others. For example, cinnamon oil is a great example. It can be very hot, and different skin sensitivities can respond to it very differently. Oregano oil is one of the most versatile oils that I've found in terms of recovering from colds, in terms of recovering from irritated skin. But you don't know that it's pure until you go through and you do your research. And if it is pure, it can still be dangerous if you're not careful with it.
It is dangerous. Oregano oil is dangerous. It is the hero in one of my essential oil disaster stories. Now, it's not too dangerous to use, but it can be dangerous. Just like a knife can be dangerous, or even, hot pepper can be dangerous. You could burn your eyes, you could burn your hands. But before I get into my essential oil disaster stories, I would like to welcome Tony McCarty. Yay, you're back. And he says that he just learned how to use a sewing machine, which is cool because I just started using a sewing machine last year. And then he said he was going to smoke some essential flower. And I'm not sure what you mean by that. What flower is it that you're essential-ing with? But yes, I do have some essential oil disasters. So the one thing with oregano is a very powerful medicine. It's antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral. It's really great, full spectrum. And this one time I had a little bit of a cold sore and I couldn't get rid of it. Well, I couldn't get rid of it in a day. The other essential oils weren't working for me, and it was like almost 24 hours, and it still wasn't going away. So I reached for the oregano. But at this time, I hadn't used oregano oil for a while, and I didn't have the respect necessary for this oil that was required.
So, before you get too deep into the story, I wanted to add another comment. I know this because I've had some clients confide in me about their own personal issues and things that they are suffering with, along with the cold sores. That also works for the other issues that
Well,
can cause.
let this story be a warning to you, because diluting oils is very important. And it was this very oil, the same bottle that I used. This was about a year ago that I used, and I used it straight on my skin. I was like, well, screw this. Nothing is working. I'm just going to stick my finger in this and I'm going to smear it like that. And then you know what I had? All the skin came off just like that, all the way around my lips. And where it dripped too? Oh yeah, you could see a little drip thing. All the skin came off. But you know what? The cold sore was gone.
I bet. Everything was gone.
It's completely gone. It was gone. Of course, marijuana, Tony. We knew that.
Yeah, actually, I have an ear oil from the Now. It's not an essential oil. It's a mixture. It's a solution of essential oils. It has olive oil, garlic bulb extract. I'm reading the Latin names and also the other names. The calendula, oregano oil, St. John's worts, and tea tree oil.
It's a good mixture.
Yeah, and it's
what do you
pretty
do
amazing.
with it? You put it in your ear?
Yeah, so this is for mild irritation or discomfort in the soft tissues of the ear. So if it's meant to go on this, yeah, I often go with, like, if it's meant to have, like, be on soft tissues, it can be on other soft tissues in your body. This also will work on cold sores.
Interesting. Yeah, I was looking
That's
at.
an interesting point, and I do actually have some experience, in particular with garlic oil, and that was something that I ran into. I had a subdermal infection somehow behind my ear, and it got really bad to the point that it actually changed the shape of my ear until it was relieved. But what brought the relief was applying garlic oil to it on a regular basis, and it helped the infection to the surface, and it helped it breach and flush. And so it was a really valuable tool, I think, that gave me results for something that was this intense in its initial phases. Getting rid of it in a few days of applications of garlic oil was just miraculous for me. And so I must plug that in terms of skin infections and help drawing infections out of your body.
And it's generally, if you're suffering from some sort of, like, a viral infection, like or I guess I'm not sure if a flu is a viral infection. It's just a virus, I guess. Garlic, like, I anytime someone's sick in my house, I throw tons of garlic and capsaicin into soup, like, and I push fluids and that garlic a lot, and my household doesn't seem to get very sick very often, so.
I make a milkshake, or not a milkshake, a smoothie out of. No. It's really cool. You put garlic. I'll let you talk in a minute. I have to finish because she's making faces. So it's garlic, lemon, capsaicin, and ginger and honey, and you make this smoothie out of it. But you don't drink it like that. You don't drink it like a smoothie.
I would hope
You
not.
take that smoothie and you pour a tiny little bit in a cup, and then you put warm water on top and you drink that. And that, drinking that throughout the day for 24 hours will pretty much take care of any cold and anything
I would
like
much
that.
rather just put all those ingredients in food and then eat them.
But it tastes good and it's raw. And so it's got the full essential oils, the full raw power of the lemon, the garlic, the ginger. It's really good. And the capsaicin to taste. Now, when I used to work in an office, I would skip the garlic. And if I'm feeling sensitive to my tummy, I'd skip the capsaicin. But you know what I mean? It's versatile.
I like
And
all of
Willow-
those ingredients, just not in the same concoction.
Yeah. And Willow, I think you've stumbled upon your own variety of alchemical genius, because if you'll notice the comparisons between garlic and capsaicin, there are attributes that you look for in alchemical applications of herbs. And to boil it down, it's hot and cold and dry and wet. And the properties of capsaicin fall deeply under the hot category, and alchemists actually, when they're exploring for new substances to apply, they actually take a taste of what they're looking at, and that can help them determine the applications. And what's been found by shamans and Westerners alike is that the elements in garlic and capsaicin, not only are they hot, but they're reflected in alchemical practices where they are used for cleaning of the blood, cleaning of infections, and mitigating the risk of actually having your immune system succumb to pathogens. For example, you can be exposed to something numerous times, but if your immune system is strong enough, you can become exposed to it and overcome it in one fell swoop without actually falling prey to the symptoms. But I think it's interesting that you made those choices because those all align alchemically with the applications that you described. For example, congestion, nasal and chest congestion, and blood. So they open up the capillaries, they improve blood flow, they help generate internal warmth in the body, and that warmth, that alchemical heat, is what their theory suggests is what's pushing the toxins and the pathogens out of the body.
That's really fascinating because the whole reason I found garlic and capsaicin is because whenever I have sinus issues and I can't breathe out of my nose, I freak out. I cannot stand to breathe through my mouth. It's a weird sort of breathing regulation. It really, I get really irritated when I cannot breathe out of my nose, at least one nostril at a time, something. So someone told me that if I open a jar of garlic and I smell it, that it will open up my nasal passageways. And I already know that capsaicin will make your nose run. So that's why I started doing it was I started smelling the garlic, and then I was like, well, if smelling it does this much, maybe eating a lot of it. And so I started putting it in soup. And actually, my stomach is growling so much because I keep thinking of I make chicken noodle soup anytime anyone is sick because it is the best carrier for all of the ingredients that I know will make the symptoms kind of go away or help it. So that's cool to understand why.
Absolutely. And you touched on another one there, and that is oregano. Oregano is a very common ingredient in chicken soups, and some people actually just make tea with the oregano itself and have had similar effects to those that you use chicken soup to treat their colds.
Not gonna lie, I love oregano and rosemary and thyme. All three of those are my go-to
antibacterial,
for anything.
antiviral, antifungal, all three of those.
I also put them all in my chicken noodle soup too.
Thyme is excellent for any lung issues as well. Been using that a lot when the children have, coughing and when there's a lung infection.
Absolutely.
So
it has a very the elements that we described, the oregano, the garlic, and the capsaicin, all because of the way that they improve blood flow. That's a big part of how your lungs function is the circulation around the exterior, and to improve the blood flow everywhere else, most people find has a very positive impact on any lung issues that they may be encountering as well.
Yeah, Tony McCarty was saying about a disaster he did with peppermint oil where he wanted to deter mice from entering his house. So he sprayed a really strong peppermint oil all throughout his house. And it did not do anything for the mice, but it stopped his dog from being able to sleep inside the house for a couple days.
Oh, no.
So, that would be a peppermint oil disaster. Have you guys had any peppermint essential oil disasters? Any mistakes?
Well, if you apply too much, especially it will burn. Obviously, I think most of us know that. And if you use it undiluted, which I did a few times.
Don't put peppermint in your bath, is what I'll have to say.
Oh, yeah, you noticed that. And dilute it a lot for your children. And also, peppermint oil it's something that will open up the airways and help with sinus and stuff. But if you apply it at night, it's not going to necessarily help you to fall asleep. So it's something that rather, wakes you up.
Yeah.
I have one story with it's basically peppermint oil, but they call it China oil. It's like a mixture. It's a China oil, but I think
The
it's
green
basically
oil?
peppermint.
Is that what you're talking about? The green oil in a little
It was
bottle that's like
it
diamond
was
shaped almost?
no, it was clear. It was a clear bottle, but that's like a universal oil, and I think some call it Japanese healing oil, but it's basically peppermint oil. And I worked with that when I was in Brazil. Must have been like 20 years ago or so, and I caught pneumonia there from sleeping on the ground at the school at the time. And I ran out of money, so I didn't have any money like to go to the doctor, to go to hospital, whatever. And then I continued training, and I had fever, and then I took a day break, but I didn't do it. And then I get the the knife in the lung kind of feeling, and all I had was peppermint oil. So that was the only thing I applied. Like on the outside, on the inside, I was drinking it, like I diluted with water, drink it, put it in my nose and everywhere, and that was really all I had. And then like a week later, I was kind of keeping it at a level. And a week later, like we went to Rio de Janeiro, and then after the session we had there, like a capoeira workshop, like one of the guys took me to a public hospital, which was for free. And then the guy took an X-ray, and then he came back and he said like he much rather would like to show it to his boss. And then he showed it to me, but I couldn't, I'd never seen a chest X-ray. And so and then his boss came, and then he called another one, and then like a bunch of doctors stood around. They were like, no, that's not supposed to be used. You're not supposed to be even walking around. Like, look at the two lungs, they're totally black. They couldn't see anything. And they say like it's full, like they're like fully infected, whatever. I wasn't even supposed to walk around. But I give credit to the China oil, because I guess that helped me to actually be functional to a degree that I could even go to the workshop and whatever. But they basically said I have to buy a bunch of medications and what's it called, antibiotics and stuff, which I didn't do. But
you didn't do. Of course you didn't do it. I'm not surprised.
But yeah, so it worked. It wasn't a horror story, but it helped me to.
So
I guess that was the only thing I took for the pneumonia. So
they said to go buy antibiotic, and you were like, okay, dear, but that's nice, dear, and you just went back to capoeira school and continued training.
Yeah, I took it a little easier, but I didn't take it.
A little easier. I only worked out 3 hours a day instead of 7. Right?
That's hardcore.
Right? Is that what it was? 3 instead of 7, or what? Or did you have like a nap sometimes?
I was in Brazil. I only had like 3 or 4 more weeks in Brazil. So and then I was gonna get home, and then by then it was kind of okay still. But of course, I'm not encouraging anybody to do that, because if you do stuff like that, then it actually will prolong the recovery phase. So if you and I did that like, was it like 3 or 4 times actually? So if you have fever, if you're kind of sick, it's better to take a rest and take care of even small things like right away, and not go on and train like a maniac, because then you will get the leak even harder, and it will take longer also to recover. So the recovery phase will be significantly longer if you don't heal, give it the time to heal properly.
That's absolutely right. And I think you keyed on something else with the peppermint. There's a spoiler in there. It's the pepper. It's telling you that it's spicy, and if you get it in concentration, it does have like a strong punch. And that also falls under that alchemical attribute of heat, of hot. And you'll find similar effects to what we were describing before. And you found a perfect example on your own alchemical genius of your own. And that was that you identified that, and it worked out. And that's another thing you can use in your toolbox for respiratory, breathing, and lung infections. All of these, the garlic, the capsaicin, and the peppermint. There's a bunch of others, but this is the idea, right? So you have a need. You have the need to flush congestion in your chest or clear your sinuses, and so we've already started a menu for you here of items that you can explore on your own. And I think once you get into this research, it's kind of addictive. If you like learning, there's a lot to learn here, and there's a lot of different rabbit holes. And if you have a problem, you'll be that much more dedicated to educating yourself on the solutions. And that's how I built up my arsenal, was just based on need. And it's refreshing to hear that people have identified these things on their own, that they're listening to their body, and that they're taking the tools that are available to them and applying them, and also finding success. I'm really glad to hear that these are helping. That's the pneumonia infection is a really intense one, and that's a difficult one to overcome. And I think that's a testament to your own fortitude and to the treatment that you chose, as opposed to Western medicine.
Yeah.
It's true what you said, actually, because that was one before I was even fully aware of, what is there available naturally. Like, now that you actually say it, it becomes even much more clear. It was, okay, that was the only thing I had. It was this little, China oil bottle that I think my grandma gave me. And it's like, it's true, because that really showed the power and the potential of what is there. And I was like, antibiotics. And I knew enough that, this was not something I wanted to take. And I know that, this really mash you up and put you down, and that does more harm than it does good in many cases. And then I thought, no, like, let me just stick with that. And I could feel it, like, physically, like how the rattling, in the upper chest, like how I could actually breathe in and get more oxygen in, which I thought, that was kind of essential anyway. So if the China oil can help me to breathe better, then, probably I should do it more often. And I did everything I could, like inhaling and drinking it and putting it in my nose and whatever.
But see,
yeah, it's like I said.
I think I want to tell my peppermint oil warning story, but before I do that, I just want to say, this is a testament to how handicapped we are in the society, right? You're in the Brazilian freaking rainforest. There were probably 100 things all over the jungle that could have helped your pneumonia. There were probably leaves and plants and trees and grasses and all sorts of antibacterial shit that you could have either burnt or boiled or mixed with alcohol or done whatever. Just right there in the jungle, the medicine of the jungle, right? But because our society is so far removed from natural medicines, like, yeah, we're comfortable with these little bottles of extracts, right? Like really concentrated extracts. But it's a whole other thing to go into the forest and start picking leaves and using them for your own healing, right? And I think that our ancestors were much more, well versed in this kind of ability, like foraging. And getting medicine from the forest is probably one of the most important things we can learn in this lifetime.
That's a really eye-opener. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just reminded of when you just spoke, Agnieszka, that was it just last year, there was a wise lady from the woods who actually lives in my region, who every now and then she will do tours with people around the woods. And it was such an eye-opener. It taught me about so many things that I don't have a clue about, just to see somebody who knows to read, and you're standing in the same forest and woods that you might pass through on a daily basis, and you just can see it with different eyes, because she points out, this can eat, you can make a salad with that, this is good for skin, this is good for that. And it's like, wow, like, you saw the stuff before, but now you can see it with different eyes, and you can see that your whole kitchen, the healing repertoire of everything around is just there. And I guess it goes back to awareness, to being aware of what nature actually provides for us. And I was, really just tremendously impressed by the fact that, this is something here. Like, I've been in tropical countries, and I lived in different places of the world, basically, and being overwhelmed by the lushness of the jungle and by the different plants. And I know a little more about plants in those kind of regions. But I was so impressed, here in Germany, that actually you have the same exact thing. And I wasn't so exposed to that in the past, but that was an impressive experience, just to have somebody and to be able to share for an hour and two in the lessons of her, about the herbs, about the plants that are growing. And then, we were with the children, she would show the children how to do like a herb butter. And, just like while walking, basically teach us like how you could probably survive or get along, or get by very, like, rather well with just everything that grows and blooms around us.
I have a couple of friends who do that. We should have them on the show. Now that I'm thinking about it.
That would be very interesting. So I'm really glad to hear you describe that, Dennis, because I think a lot of people could benefit from that sort of exploration, because medicine grows all around us. And to Agnieszka's point, we have been stripped of the knowledge and the awareness of how much potential surrounds us for anything that we need. The world provides a solution somehow, somewhere, in some way. And so many times that is plants. And there is still hope. And I want to prefix this by saying that I'm not advocating that anyone just walk around and putting things into their mouth. But I will say that we are equipped with the senses necessary to help guide us when it comes to seeking out medicines of different properties for different applications. Going back to the alchemical standards, you get a sense when you taste something if it's hot, if it's spicy, or if it's cold, like eucalyptus and things like that. They have a cooling effect. These are polar opposites in the types of attributes they have, and they do have some overlap. Eucalyptus is known for benefiting when it comes to breathing and things like that. But a simple taste of something that you have already confirmed is safe can help you identify what some of those medical and even alchemical applications might be for what you need to resolve.
I had a beautiful visual of this shaman walking through the woods.
That was the beginning. That's what they did. That's exactly how it worked.
And if you observe animals, that's what they naturally do as well, right? I mean, I bet or maybe most farmers will know, if you observe cows, if you observe the animals, what they do, if they are left in a natural environment, when they're sick, or what do? They stop eating, and then when they start eat again, they eat certain grasses, they eat certain things that will help them to heal. So there's a lot, if not everything, to learn by observing nature and our natural environment.
Yeah.
And that's a great point. Those are a guide too. A lot of people identified poisonous materials just based on what their own animals avoided. And that's another useful tool. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Nice. Shambavi had a question about rosemary oil being harmful to pregnant women. It's not exactly harmful, but it is used to induce contractions. So rosemary oil, clary sage, cinnamon, and a couple other ones, they can induce contractions. So that's why pregnant women should be very careful using those oils, because the effect may not be what they want at that time in their pregnancy, right?
That's what we used as well. Yeah, I had forgotten about that application, but that's what our doula used as well.
Essential
at those
oils.
Times. Mm-hmm.
To induce.
I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because rosemary oil is one of my favorite ones, and that would have really sucked to be, not that I am pregnant, but if I were to ever get pregnant and be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna pop some rosemary oil into the diffuser, we're all good.
Oh, when you're pregnant, usually like in the first little bit, I don't think it would really be a big deal, like the first month. But I think once you're more pregnant, it would probably have a more prominent effect. But also, when you're pregnant, you're gonna get paranoid and you're gonna read everything and check everything.
Yeah.
I know you, so you wouldn't do that just because of who you are.
Yeah. Well, it's like we were talking earlier, it's something that I've already deemed as safe. So in my mind, I'm glad that someone mentioned that under different circumstances it could be
Less safe?
Less safe. Because I actually, someone told me, or maybe I looked it up, I can't remember, that rosemary oil is really good for memory. And I have trouble with my memory. I'm sleep deprived all the time. As you can tell, I can barely remember who I quote and what I'm saying. So I use it for memory improvement all the time, and I've actually seen a difference. If I know that I need to be paying attention, I need to remember, and I want to be present, I'll put rosemary oil in my diffuser, just so that I can smell that, remind my brain to be present and, do the recording that it's supposed to do instead of disassociating and fragmenting all those memories into my body. It's really helpful, and I use it in all my cooking. Any chance I get to put rosemary in my food, I'm gonna.
That's excellent. And you also have options in terms of ginkgo and even ginger. They have similar properties in that regard, so you can.
I like ginger as well. Actually, the rosemary oil is what I've been sniffing on. I feel like one of those the people that's like sniffing glue, and you're like,
That's how I feel.
that's the good stuff.
I mean, I wanted to ask Dennis because I
Something
think he's got more like knowledge in this area. So now, first of all, lavender. The lavender that I have is Lavandula augustifolia. So which one is that? Is that the flowers? Do you know? Because you said one is flower, one is leaf, one is stem.
Well,
He has no
probably-
idea.
I would look it
consider.
up and check it out, but
Then check this out.
off
So
the
I
top of
got
my
these
head.
2 eucalyptuses. One is Eucalyptus globulus, and the other one is Eucalyptus radiata. And they all say 100% pure, but this is now living, so they're probably, I don't know, they mix them somehow thin. But I kind of like it because I know that the now living oils are less concentrated, so I can use them more liberally. And
Not the rosemary. I found that out. Don't put the rosemary 100%
Oh,
on your skin.
on my desk,
At
I
least not
have
for
this
me.
little frankincense, and I use it a lot on my skin, just direct. You know, it's my go-to. Like if I have a cut or something, or if, you know, whatever, I'll use it. But this eucalyptus, like, so these two different eucalyptuses, but they smell differently. Like one is definitely better, but now I'm changing my mind which one's better. So, you know, continue. Never mind. This is not a discovery call. And it's not gonna work. Globulus radiata. Has any
of you come across Artemisia annua, the sweet wormwood?
Isn't
I
that
have
what's
it
in
as an
absinthe?
herb. Yes, it is. I have it as a tea. Wormwood.
I came across that not too long ago. And I have the extract here, but I haven't actually tried it yet. But that with the whole present Rona situation, that has gotten some attention, but then also I think others have tried to bury it. But it's super interesting in terms of the healing properties of it. And it has been, even here in Germany, it's being cultivated like organically and on a rather large scale by some people. And I just came across an article a few days ago about the production in Madagascar, which some forces wanted to stop it and wanted to ban it there from even being planted and grown. And so there seems to have been some effort gone into research of its healing properties, and especially dealing with respiratory issues and overall infections as well. I think it seems to have a lot of properties. So
It doesn't say
I haven't
respiratory
tested it.
issues. So I just looked it up because but I'm looking at the wrong website. Okay, let's. It just the overall thing says digestion, appetite, upset stomach, gallbladder, intestinal spasms, or fever, liver disease, depression, muscle pain, memory loss, warm infections. Wormwood.
And put in the Rona along with it and see what comes out.
And then it says sexual desire and tonic to stimulate sweating. That's all it says. Let's see. Respiratory. There we go. Hang on. We're going to see. No, I'm getting the same. Pulmonary administration of Artemisia afra against tuberculosis in malaria world. That's cool. And it treated for respiratory disorders in Pakistan. You know, that's a very interesting observation, because in every country these herbs seem to be used differently. Like, you know, even kombucha and stuff, it has different opinion and different regulations in each country. Isn't that very strange? Because humans are humans, aren't they? Or are Germans more hardy folk?
But like we began this show, everyone's an individual and everyone's gonna have individual reactions. And a lot of what influences our individuality is where we grew up in our culture and things that aren't individual.
So that means in North America you wouldn't like ferments because ferments are not traditional in North America.
I think that's a very general statement that can't be proven.
You cannot. No, there are a lot of good ferments, like people eat them. But it's weird because it's like the way I think of ferments, and I know that's Gabriel's wheelhouse, but I think of them as natural because my grandma used to make that and stuff. But here, you know, there are a lot of these articles like, oh, watch out, you're going to get mold.
Well, the beautiful thing about fermentation is a little mold doesn't really hurt as long as you're careful to discard it and take the proper care of your ferment. And it may also be worth noting here that the benefits that we've described in terms of essential oils, when you apply the base ingredients, the oregano leaves, the rosemary, and that sort of thing, you can actually ferment those as well. And one of the benefits is that you actually increase the bioavailability, which actually accelerates the effectiveness of the medicines you're consuming. For example, if you use things like ginger and garlic and pepper flake, one combination that I like for pickling or fermenting things like carrots, you'll find that you get the benefits of the the alchemical hot, very quickly. And so that's another thing that I've added to a regimen when I have a cold, is to take a root vegetable and ferment it with some of these things, the garlic and the ginger and the pepper flake and things, other things containing capsaicin, depending on tastes, and using those as a quick snack in between meals or in between your bowls of chicken soup. And that accelerates the action, and it breaks down a lot of the cells that prevent your body from accessing the nutrients therein. So you'll find that you'll get you'll front load, so to speak. You'll get more immediate impact at a higher amplitude earlier in the process after consuming than you would normally through other applications.
I noticed similar results also, like since I started on a pretty regular basis to eat fermented foods, and I started to notice it with sauerkraut, but the raw one, basically, not the cooked one, or the how do you call it, the pasteurized one, of course.
Yeah.
Many of them are pasteurized, and then I started, getting into fermentation. It's pretty amazing. Like the amount of like flu symptoms, coughs or whatever went right down, and as when I came off it, basically, I could feel like I felt more sluggish, and I could feel like a real impact like on my health, like right away when getting on fermented foods. So I can just confirm what you said.
Absolutely. And it doesn't end. Anything that you can ferment, you can usually improve the benefits that your body is going to get from it through the process of fermentation before eating it. So stuff that you would normally eat raw, if you ferment it, you can get the same potency, because you're not exposing it to the chemical reactions driven by heat, but you're still exposing it to the breakdown process and the partial digestion of the microbes therein, and that helps improve your body's capabilities and getting access to those.
That reminds me a little bit of sprouting. Like when you sprout, then it has similar effects. I'm not saying that sprouting is the same like fermenting, but it also will increase the availability, obviously, and also the nutrient content of whatever you're sprouting with.
That's absolutely true. You're getting more of that fourth physical state of water, that gel phase, when it's sprouts have to be handled and consumed.
Wait! Back up the train. Okay, tell us about the water and the 4 gel state thing.
Okay, so people are probably familiar with the 3 states of water: solid, liquid, and gas. But through the research of Dr. Gerald Pollack and others, there have been discoveries that there is actually a 4th phase of water that is being experimented with. You can see this in laboratory experiments from Gerald Pollack's laboratory and from other people that are reproducing it. The simplest way to reproduce this effect is to pass a current through water. So for example, 2 vials are placed side by side, touching each other, and they're filled with water to the point that the water just exceeds the line, but it still maintains the surface tension that maintains it. So when you put the 2 vials against one another, the skin makes contact and they connect. The water from the two vials can connect at that one point where they meet. And if you pass an electrical current from one vial into the other, you can actually separate the vials very slowly, and you'll find that the water will maintain a bridge. So you can extend the vials inches apart and still have a water bridge that's held intact by the electrical current passed through it. And this is one of the ways that you can see the 4th phase of water in action, but it's a laboratory simulation, so it is a corrupted demonstration. But to be clear, this phase of water is found in plant life naturally. And so when you are harvesting and consuming the plants, within 1 to 3 days from start to finish, you're going to find that you'll get more access to the nutrients. You might even get more energy. And what I'm finding is that this seems to be an effect of exposing yourself to that 4th phase of water, which happens to also allow things to pass through cell membranes more freely. It reduces the barrier tension between cells, so nutrients and different substances can be passed through the body and distributed through the cells more efficiently. And so in terms of the example of sprouts, you are satisfying those requirements, and you'll find, as Dennis has pointed out, that you will notice differences if you compare the 2. versus something that was harvested maybe a week or two ago and languished in your fridge in that poor crisper drawer. What I like to do is actually the next phase from sprouts, which is microgreens. So you're basically letting them exceed the sprout phase and moving into the leafing phase, and they'll usually have like 2 little treetop leaves. And when you get that, when those fully mature and come into full color, you'll find that the nutrient density is much higher, and it resembles more closely the final amount of nutrients that you'll get in the full-sized plant. Obviously, it's not the same thing, but when you combine those with the conditions of the 4th phase of water, you're getting a massive nutrient density packed into a tiny little piece of plant material, and you're getting the water along with it in that 4th phase, which allows your body to pass those nutrients and distribute them where your body needs them most.
Nice. Cool.
We totally
That
got
also-
way off topic though.
But cool.
We
But you
went
know
from
what?
essential oils
Well,
to
bring it
fermented
right back.
food to sprouts.
And we
Yeah,
were
let's-
going to talk about face cream, and we never talked about face cream, and now it's 10 to, and I don't even know if we can really start talking about face cream because it's a huge topic, and it's going to open up all these other things, and it's just, I don't know. What do you guys want to do? What
Wanna
about
tell you
Michael?
My favorite essential oil?
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us your favorite.
Cedarwood.
Cedarwood.
Nice.
I love
Nice.
cedarwood. I used it for an emotional attachment. The cedarwood and the pine. I was reading the backs of them. The attributes for the cedarwood is soothing, strengthening, and empowering. The pine and its pine needles is for purifying, centering, and refreshing. So I completely understand emotionally why I like both of these scents together. They're kind of like the both ends of the spectrum, where it's like revitalizing and purifying and, you know, energizing, and then like the roots tying you to safety. I don't know. That didn't come out quite how I wanted it to, but you know, whatever.
Well, no, I think it's a good point, and those are attributes that I found, and that actually you sort of inadvertently revealed one of the fragrances that I used just to have like sort of an aftershave, and it was those two, and with just a little bit of bergamot, and so it gives like a citrus floral sort of element to it. If anyone's tried Earl Grey tea, they will recognize bergamot immediately when they smell it, because that's where the primary source of the smell derives from, is the bergamot.
It's a citrus. It's a type of citrus fruit, bergamot, like a type of lemon or something, isn't it?
Well, I'm not familiar with the fruit. I just know that it flowers, so I'm not sure what that becomes.
Yeah, it's called Citrus bergamia. So I was right there on the bottle. It's crazy.
So I wanted to tell quickly. I have one story about the pine. So I thought that it was just me. I thought that I just liked the pine, and you know, I was a weirdo because I grew up, you know, where you could smell pine trees. But I had another friend, and I won't go into details about what was actually happening. All I can say is she was very, very sleep deprived, and she was having emotional and physical flashbacks. Also, there was something else going on that was very sensitive and emotional as well. And she decided that she needed to take a shower. And I was like, have at it. You know, there's my shower, there's my bathroom, you know. And she was in there for probably like 2 hours just showering and trying to figure things out. And I think her boyfriend at the time came and asked me, he's like, do you have any essential oils? Do you have any pine? She's dying to have some pine essential oil. I don't understand what's going on. She doused my bathroom in pine oil. Like, my shower reeked of pine oil for months. I loved
That's
it.
good.
But
That's good.
it was actually a little bit too much when I first got in there. I had to dilute it with a couple more showers. But she was using it as a clarifying, a cleansing, and a purifying kind of manner. And it wasn't until afterwards that we went over the situation and what she was trying to do and what her actions, you know, she was able to comprehend what was going on. It made a lot more sense why she chose that oil. So I find it really interesting how your own intentions isn't the right word. Your own needs will draw you towards the ones like that you're you're most desperate to
Your
have.
body knows. Remember,
Yeah.
psychosomatic therapy. Your body always knows the answer. It's the problem. The problem is, usually the problem is between the keyboard and the chair. But here, the problem is between the brain and the heart. We don't really listen to our bodies the way, and our bodies always know. They will always tell us. If you put something in your mouth and you have an instant reaction, don't eat it. Just don't eat it. Just don't eat it.
Are you guys familiar with the Anastasia books from Russia?
I am familiar with the story of Anastasia and how her memory was unlocked with peppermint.
Is that the same Anastasia from the tundra from Siberia?
Oh,
It's not even Disney.
Oh.
It's DreamWorks.
that's not
Not
that.
Disney,
She wasn't Anastasia. She was Apathasia or something, Apapasia or something like that.
The
Wasn't
Disney
it?
one.
No, the one in the woods in Taiga, the woman that lived alone with her family, and then her family
it's-
died, and she lived alone forever.
No, it's Anastasia. It's a book series. The author is Megre, Megre, I believe. But that's probably too much to get into now. But in that book series, this mystical woman lady from Siberia that lived in complete harmony with nature. Some say it's an accurate story, actually what happens, and it's an account that really happens and is. And some people are channeling her and saying, yeah, she's alive and it's all true. Other people say it's just pure fiction. But nevertheless, it's super interesting. I think it's 11 books or even more by now that came out, and she's giving messages to humanity, basically. It's about living together with harmony. It has like social aspects. It has it goes into history. It goes into how humanity can basically live together in harmony with nature and with humanity itself. And but the reference I'm making there is that the cedar, the pine nut, the Siberian pine nut oil, and especially the cedar trees, they reference the ringing cedar trees, I believe. They play like a huge, an essential role in this whole series and in the life of that woman and in her messages as well, and in her interacting with people and with nature. And so there's a lot to be found researching cedar oil or Siberian pine nut oil, and people using it for many applications, including treating the pineal gland and opening it up. And so there's a lot of reference made to that in those books.
That's really interesting on its own. I like that.
Sounds like a cool book.
This is a little unrelated, but it did remind me because of the story of Anastasia that I'm familiar with. It's not a Disney movie, actually. I don't think it's Disney. I think it's DreamWorks. But it's about like the Princess Anastasia from Russia and how she was escaping Rasputin, and they were like invading the palace and stuff, and she was escaping, and she ended up falling, and she lost all of her memories. So she grew up in an orphanage, and years later, she's trying to convince the queen that she is actually the long-lost granddaughter of her, that she's related and she's royalty. And she recalls a memory when she smells peppermint oil on her grandmother's hands. And she says, "Peppermint? You got so mad at me because I spilled a whole bottle of it in your room," and like replays a memory. This happens. The sense of smell that you have is so closely related. It's the most closely related sense that you have with memory. And I have experienced this before. My mom came to pick me up. I was going to live with her, and one of her best friends came to pick me up with her. And I didn't know this woman. I didn't have any recollection of who she was or anything. She was literally a stranger until I walked into her house and I smelled her house. And as soon as I smelled the inside of her home, I turned to her and I said, "I know who you are. I used to play with your son with the toy cars in that room over there. That's your mud room. This is where you keep your deep freeze." Like, I was pointing her, like telling her all about her house, because all of a sudden I remembered. So be very careful if you have emotional traumas in your past, especially if you have some repressed memories. Be very careful with what sense you're exposing yourself to, And be prepared that sometimes a scent can bring up a memory that you didn't know was there. It can be really blindsiding if you have repressed memories and then all of a sudden one of them comes up and you don't have the appropriate support system to handle that.
Then you call Willow, the trauma consultant. She'll help you out, work through it.
Yes.
It's all good.
WillowHGraham@protonmail.com. Just send me an email. I'll get back to you.
Yeah,
Nice.
those are really like biochemical reactions that those essential oils trigger in our physicality. So the what you're hinting is like, that stored memories will come out, and that's because those smells, they trigger certain reactions in our brain even that release hormones, like even serotonin, for example, by some of the oils that we might inhale or use for aromatherapy. And I feel that is really related to what you just mentioned, that memories might come up that we have stored along with those scents.
And Shambhavi said she's attracted to geranium oil. And what's this all about? And my only thought about it is that you're Eastern European, and therefore geranium oil is part of your blood.
I also love geranium oil, but it was always way too expensive. Every time I went, there was like, oh, this is $26 for a tiny little bottle. I'm like, dude, I pay like $6 for this one. Why is that one expensive?
Geranium, it says antidepressant, anti-diabetic, antiseptic, hormone balancer, insect repellent, normalizing and balancing, mildly sedating oil, good for PMS, nervous tension, skin concerns, and neuralgia. Good as a bath additive. That's what I found.
Not like peppermint. Peppermint is not a good bath additive. Do not put peppermint in your bath. Because when I put peppermint in my bath, I did not put any sort of bubble bath or anything in there. And so it just floated on top. And then I got in and it just floated on top. And there was hot water and there was my skin. And it started like touching my skin where the hot water. And right at the line of the water all across my back, I had this bright red, like a scratch, all around my body, all around my back, because that's where the peppermint oil sat, right behind me. So
Just
be careful.
Reminds me of all the warnings people give you when you cut up hot peppers. That capsaicin can stay in your fingernails. It can stay under your fingernails. And you had better make sure your hands are washed before you decide to go to the bathroom.
Or
Just
touch your
saying.
eyeballs. Or touch your eyeballs.
Hey, at least the eyeballs you can like openly flush with water.
You can flush down there with water.
Yeah, but in the privacy, like you have to go in the privacy of your bathroom. Like
In a public washroom. Look at her face. Yeah, exactly. Well, I think it's after 4 Pacific. So that means it's after 7 Eastern. And we should like close down this popsicle stand. We'll come back again. We do want to talk to you about those face creams, really, like we do, but it's just not working out that way these days. But also we'll be talking more about fermentation and more about foraging and more about any other interesting topics that we come up with. If you have any ideas or any thoughts.
Do we have a guest for next Monday? What are we doing for next Monday?
We're talking art of loving relationships, and I have not been able to touch base with Shambhavi to see if she wants to be a guest on Monday. But Shambhavi, are you available? I know you're listening. Will you be our guest next Monday? We really wanted to have you as a guest. If not Shambhavi, we can come up with another topic that we can do in-house.
Alrighty.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Or maybe we should get a guest from inside Autonomy.
It's always a possibility.
Everybody just went, what? My
no, I
God.
did the shoulder shrug. Like that's interesting. We'll see how it goes.
Yes. Shambhavi's giving us last bit of oh, she said, okay. What do you mean? Okay, you're going to be there next Monday as our special guest about the art of loving relationships?
I would assume that that's what she's saying. Okay, too.
Ooh, that'd be cool. I'm really looking forward to that. If that's the case, if that's really what she's saying. Shambhavi says that in yoga it smells related to the ground, to the air chakra, to the root chakra, ground chakra. She said ground chakra, root chakra. And so the body's cellular memories are awakened with smell. So, all right. Well, on that note, Monday is the art of loving relationships, no matter what, no matter who our guest will be. Wednesday, Shambhavi will be our guest. That's awesome. Thank you. Mwah. And Wednesday, we're going to be talking about probably more of the same sort of health thing. I think we should continue with face creams and body creams and then move on to foraging maybe in a week or so. What do you guys think? That sounds good. This is a good planning meeting for the next shows. I'm glad you all listeners were part of it. We really enjoy putting everything out. And again, apologies for the false start today. That was technical difficulty that we never really got over, but we're okay. We're live.
If we just stay on for 5 more minutes, we'll have made up our time.
Really? 5 more minutes? Oh,
We started 10 minutes
Shambhavi sent us a kiss, you guys.
Oh.
Nice. Nice. Well, I don't think we should stay just staring at our listeners like that. I think that's a little artificial, just sitting there like this for 5 minutes just so we can make up our. No, it's not a good idea.
We have to stare to assert dominance. Be like,
all of us at the same time. Anyway, this show is deteriorating. Tony's loving us, so that's good. At least somebody loves us. We like that. We like to be loved. And we will come back on Monday no matter what and do something fun. So I'm going to play the outro. I'm going to say goodbye. Bye. Bye.
bye.
Thank you.